Yeah, even as far back as the Mayan civilization in this area of Georgia, there are traces of evidence of very ancient um, practice sites. So this is very powerful land that I'm sitting on and teaching on and living on, and the land that I was born on, as well. So thank you all so much for being here. Um, I think that do we have Chinrezig this weekend on Sunday? Is that right? Did I make that up? Oh, in 2 weeks. So it's probably what, the 23rd or something, 22nd.
No, sorry, time is like ethereal for me at this moment. It is definitely this weekend.
Yes. Yeah. So we have Chinrezig, I think it's Sunday, late morning. So please come out to that. I haven't taught Chinrezig online. That's only been a practice we've been doing in-person retreats since the late summer. So for those of you who are interested in Chinrezig, please come out and sit with us. Chinrezig is the Bodhisattva of love. But the practice is called Chinrezig's Ring of Fire. And that's really an allusion to how, for me, the practice of Chinrezig is about awakening the heart chakra, and we use heat to do that. So like a little bit of a Johnny Cash and kind of a take, Ring of Fire. So every time I think about Chinrezig now, I have Ring of Fire playing. And now that we are back on Zoom, I can actually play all this music, but I'm gonna wait till Sunday to play Ring of Fire, because it's part of the performance of deity practice. So I think someone just posted the link. Yeah, oh, that's right, June Jordan, June Carter. June Jordan, see, this is why I'm thinking. June Carter did actually write Ring of Fire, yep. Yeah, so in any case, you have all the information for that. Next Monday, so our next session, we will be starting our mantra practice. And so the mantra practice is something that it's not going to be what we do exclusively in our session, but it's something that I am inviting you all to do in your personal practice. But we'll begin it together next Monday. And next Monday is MLK weekend, well, next weekend, but MLK Memorial Holiday as well. And I live just a mile from Dr. King's neighborhood down the street. So it's always festive in Atlanta during MLK weekend. So we'll have questions at the end. We're gonna do the question link again. The question link is on the prayer doc at the top. So you can post a question there, I'll get to that, or you can ask a question directly. I prefer asking questions directly because I can read those nuances.
And took out the link to the prayer doc, or to that document in the prayer doc, so it doesn't exist anymore.
So we won't be doing that. That's what it feels like a Saturday Night Live skit for some reason. It's like, but anyway, yeah, so you can post questions in the chat at the end, which may be easier actually. We have a problem-solving team that I'm not a part of because I don't solve problems, I create more problems. So I've learned how to create boundaries and not get in the way. This whole thing, right, around teaching and being a public figure and all this stuff, like apparently like I need to take like a course in it because apparently I'm not getting it right. I just kind of still show up to really professional things, just kind of say whatever I want. Um, but my teacher, my teacher would just like do whatever he wanted. Apparently, he did what he wanted. But like in terms of like teaching, he would just like, whatever, I'm gonna sit down, I'm just gonna start teaching. We would be doing like practices, day-long practices, and we would take breaks. And this was never scheduled, so it would just be like, we're gonna take a break right now. And I remember once asking him when the break was gonna be over, right? Because it's nice to know when something's gonna start up again. And he just looks at me, he goes, well, it's gonna be over when I get back. And then he like walks away. So there you go, that's how I was trained. Um, and then that's the example that I have. And so that's what I have to follow. Of course, I was working very closely with Lama Baker. She was the same way too. So it was like, this is kind of what we did in our lineage, you know. But anyway, I say that to say that like so much of this work that we're doing in our practice is about getting fluid and kind of letting go, that things happen when they need to happen, which is a very hard lesson to learn since we love schedules for many reasons. In some ways they're necessary, some ways we're just like dependent on them, and in ways that just aren't helpful anymore. But this illusion of permanence and organization is an illusion, right? So we're not really in control. We're precariously moving through this world, and it's only through um, the karma that we've created with all kinds of beings, um, that keeps us safe, that helps us to move through the world without a lot of intense harm. But karma, this idea of karma, um, helps us to negotiate the reality of impermanence, right? It's like, again, it's just like another way I think about all of this is just like being like, you're just kind of tossing and turning all over the place, right? And what we're trying to do is gain agency over the one thing that we can actually train an agency over, which is our minds. So first and foremost, I'm learning how to develop this agency to watch my own mind and to transition from a place of reactivity into a place of responsiveness, right? To get from reactivity to responsiveness, we have to actually experience. We have to choose to experience, right? And that experiencing is what I call metabolizing, right? I'm experiencing, I'm feeling, I'm getting curious. I'm noticing how energy is moving through my experience. I'm learning how to let it go. Like water, like letting water flow, letting shit go. Phenomenal reality builds because of the ways in which we're reacting to things and creating realities that don't exist, right? So when we're holding space for something, it just means that we're not reacting, but we're choosing how to respond. And we can only choose how to respond if we're choosing to experience the material that's arising for us. So you come back to being in the world and really the illusion of the world and this false sense of security. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I may die tonight, right? Like, absolutely. Like, I may not wake up in the morning. I may have a heart attack. Anything can happen. And I'm not really so concerned with that anymore either. Because I have a practice that will meet whatever arises, be it joy, be it hopelessness or despair, be it happiness, ecstasy, whatever it may be, right? That's what I'm training in, right? To cultivate a practice to meet whatever arises. So wherever I get thrown about, I'm able to hold that movement, that experience, right? I mean, because, again, and the karma, right, is this habitual, it's the way that I have habituated, or let's see, that's not the word. So karma is how we, no, that's not the word either. Like karma is, how I create cycles that either spin me deeper into delusion or spin me out of delusion, right? And of course, to get free, we're trying to develop ways of being, thinking, and acting in the world that actually helps us to cultivate clarity. And clarity is what begins to spin us out of the delusion of samsara, or what I call the carceral state. Um, and not to say, right, that we can't have some agency over the phenomenal world, because we absolutely can, but what I'm saying is that we can't dominate the carceral state, because the carceral state isn't a phenomenon that can be dominated, right? The carceral state is delusion, right? The only relationship we need to have to delusion is to hold space for delusion. And then holding space for delusion, we begin to awaken clarity, right? And all this is made even more complex because we have the karma and past experiences of countless past lives to contend with. So everything that's arising for us right now has actually been kind of predetermined from who we've been in our past lives and what we've dedicated ourselves to cultivating. As I say, there's nothing new under the sun. So this particular life may be new, but the actions, the thoughts, the habits are not new, they're old. And we're slowly, right, slowly moving our way from this habitual reactivity that drives the cycle of delusion. We're trying to disrupt that in order to open to the space. And that space is the expression of clarity itself. And clarity, or wisdom, right, is what helps us to see the illusion of everything. So in any case, what does that have to do with consistency or the schedules? Well, it's just whatever happens, happens, basically, which is another teaching from my teacher. Whatever happens, happens. And anything can happen because we have the practice to meet whatever happens. We have the practice to respond to what arises and to respond in a way that creates clarity instead of further delusion. Right, so clarity, so delusion is the opposite of clarity. Right? All right, well, I think everyone has gotten into the room who's going to get in tonight, today. So again, welcome everyone. If you're new, If you're just joining us, we were just saying earlier that we're fixing out all of the little technical issues that arose today because of Miss Girl Mercury has been sashaying around, in retrograde or whatever she does, honey. Like I said, every time Miss Mercury moves, it's like it's a problem for us. So we need that girl to stay put for the rest of the session. No retrograding, no regrading, no prograding, no grading at all. We're gonna practice stillness with Miss Mercury. So let's begin. Let's begin practice. So we're gonna continue with the practice from last week, but we'll add some layers to it. But I want to begin with just lighting our candle. So lighting the candle to signify the beginning of practice, and of course in these dark months in this part of the hemisphere, in this hemisphere. I know some of you are in Australia, so you're probably kind of in summer right now, but in this part of the hemisphere in winter, just remembering the light, even though the light is returning since we're past solstice. So lighting a candle to symbolize clarity itself, to remember the light and to embody the light. And to embody the light doesn't mean that we're necessarily pushing away the dark, because the dark is necessary as well. But the light helps us to remember balance, because yes, when things are out of balance, then that is the experience of a lot of suffering, right? So when darkness overwhelms the light, then that's suffering, right? Or when light may overwhelm the dark, right? That can be suffering as well. In the relative world, like here in this moment, right, in this realm of sensation, the material realm, or the carceral state, or samsara. But in general, the relative is based on balance, like cultivating that balance and then holding that balance, right? So we'd like the candle to remember the balance of light and dark, that both have these incredible teachings to offer us, right? And what does it feel like for the light? Some of you do have candles going in your spaces, but even just looking at the light that I'm holding, what is the energy of light feel like for you? What is your experience of light? So as we sometimes do, I encourage you and invite you just to imagine that this flame begins to awaken in your heart center, like it begins just awaken. and the heart center begins to radiate this light. And this is a lot of how how I teach Chenrezig, as well as this, the light, the fire of the heart center, right? The heart center, the heart chakra being this energetic um, kind of part of our bodies that is related to love, compassion, empathy, feeling, right? And how this warmth, this flame begins to light the heart center, the heart chakra up. We can feel that light radiating through the body. And so what does it feel like just to let this light begin to radiate through the body and begin to radiate out from the body, as if you're like a star, like you're like the North Star, like Tara, shining in the darkness of the sky? What does it feel like just to let, as we say, your little light shine? And as you're letting yourself radiate brilliantly, like the North Star, I wonder, can you feed or offer all the stuff that you're struggling with, everything that you're bringing into this session? Can you feed it into and offer it into the intensity of this light, and let the light dissolve it, right? And turn it into this fuel that helps you burn even brighter and radiate even brighter in the darkness. So what does it feel like, for instance, for example, to offer sadness into this light, or anxiety, or hopelessness? And so again, if you're just joining us, we're just imagining this flame, this light awakening in our heart centers, beginning to radiate throughout the body, and that we're feeding and offering the things that we struggle with right now into this fire, into this light. And this is a practice of transforming delusion into clarity. It's a very alchemical mental experience where we're transforming one thing into another thing. So transforming sadness into clarity, getting clear about our experience and how to reconnect to the spaciousness of sadness and how to hold sadness and not let it hold you. So just sitting, resting in the light. So we're going to transition into a different energy in the practice in just a moment. But just taking these last few moments here just to radiate, to let your light shine. And to do this in a way that you're not trying. Like, stop trying, don't stop doing something or stuff, stop trying, stop putting effort into this and just let the light shine. That's it, just let it happen. Like you are the northern star, let yourself shine. Right? It's there, the light is always there. We actually never have to do anything but just allow it. So in my practice, like when we allow ourselves to just radiate, then we begin to experience restoration instead of exhaustion. So exhaustion comes when we're doing, we're putting effort, like I'm meditating, I'm doing this, right? And that's natural at the beginning, but the higher levels of meditation and practice is just letting shit happen. Letting the mind be, right? Of course, those of you who used to sit in Mahamudra for the people, right? That's, that's so much of the practice is non-doing. So you're not doing anything but just allowing. And in the allowing, the restoration, the healing starts to happen. Things begin to be released, right? Even when I was saying offer things into the light, like it's just letting it go. Let the resentment go, let the anger go, let the anxiety go, and just let it float into the light. And then let the light, which is the energy of our minds, right? The luminosity of the light is just the energy of mind and consciousness. Let the light, the energy, take care of what you're letting go. Because if you're just letting it, this energy, the light, take care of it, then you're actually moving from reactivity, right, into responsiveness. And for some of you, you may be able at this point to connect to joy or experiences like gratitude and happiness. Because this light is also an expression of space, right? And space holds everything, and space is everything. This is also a really good grief practice methodology to work with grief as well. Just let the light, the space take care of the grief right now. So when I'm moving out in public spaces, like for instance, like Target, like this is the practice that I'm often doing. This is kind of letting this light radiate. It's a way for me to let go of shutting down and contracting, and to actually open and expand, to actually share this light with people around me. And so as you're radiating this light, it's also important to understand that you're also drawing around you, or drawing in around you, all your benefactors. All these beings of light are actually being drawn closer to you because you're opening and letting this energy just radiate and flow. And that's what they use to draw closer to us. So do you feel your benefactors arising around you because you're opening and allowing this light to radiate? And this is the really incredible part about this kind of practice or magic, is that the more we open, actually the more protected we become, because we're drawing in our benefactors, our protectors, our homecomings, right? So this even goes back to our earlier reflections around impermanence and dealing with just obstacles and everything. Actually, the practice isn't to shut down and to get harder. The practice is to expand and to open, to allow wherever happens to happen. Right? But the more we open, the more we actually get support from other beings and changing and shifting really what's happening around us. Because we always want energy to flow. We always want energy to move. Shutting down is an attempt to trap energy, and that's called trauma. Right? And trauma will produce trauma. Right? So the more we shut down in life, the more obstacles we're going to have in life, because the shutting down produces more suffering, more stuck energy that we don't know how to navigate. So the more we open, the more things actually begin to unknot and flow really fluidly around us. So in a way, we do start gaining some agency over what arises for us in the world. Okay. Now we're going to transition the energy and then get into the mantra as well. And so now I want you to imagine that whatever space you're in, that the space around you begins to radiate light. Right? So if you're imagining that you're a star in the night sky, then the sky begins to light up around you. So instead of you having whatever burden it is to light up the sky itself begins to light up. Right? If you're in a space, in a room or something, imagine the room lighting up. If your lights are on, it helpful. It's helpful in the imagining, right? You already have light. But just imagining the light awakening around you. And as the light awakens, I want you to imagine that the light that you've been radiating actually reverses and you begin to absorb all of this light back into the heart center. And so the light in the heart center actually becomes like a magnet. And the light in the heart center is now going to start pulling, absorbing, calling in the light around you into your body. Right. So we can imagine that all the openings, the pores, holes in our bodies, everything begins to start drinking the light around us, which is energy, like restorative healing energy. So all this energy begins to be absorbed through every opening in our bodies, and we begin to imagine ourselves being filled with this energy. And again, this is the same stance that we took with radiating. So we're not doing anything but allowing our bodies, our minds to drink deeply from all of this light that's being called in by the light in our heart centers. And we're just going to move right into the main mantra, Teata, Bekense, Maha Bekense, Rasa Sumon Kate Soha. And so in the mantra, just drinking in this energy. O Teata, Bekense, Ma Bekense, Rasa Sumo Kate Soha. 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 Begenze, Mahabegenze, Radasumungarezoa, Deada, Begenze, Begenze, Mahabegenze, Radasumungarezoa, Deada, Begenze, Begenze, Mahabegenze, Radasumungarezoa, Deada, Begenze, Begenze, ma begenze, razu zumugare zoa. Eada, 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 begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razu zumugare zoa. Deada, 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 begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razu zumugare zoa. Deada,
Om Regel,
begenze, ma begenze, razu zumugare zoa. Deada, begenze, 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 Begenze, Mahabegenze, Lazumagatisua, Tehada, 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 Begenze, Begenze, ma begenze, lazuma gadizua. 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 Beata, 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 begenze, begenze, ma begenze, lazuma gadizua. And now turning just into the prayer requests. As always, I call into the space all the beings that have the capacity to hold um, our prayers and to act on our behalf, to bring about what we're praying for. And I call into the space all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the Dharma protectors. I call into the space all the elements and all the guardians of the elements and all the guardians and elders of the land. Call into the space all beings of light, all of our benevolent ancestors. And I call into this space um, any being, who is willing to hear these prayers and to work on our behalf to bring about the fruition of these prayers. I invite you into the space and welcome you on behalf of our practice community. And we begin by offering prayers for Joy and her family as her son navigates race and relationship issues. Offering prayers for Queen on the loss of her husband and navigating the grief. Offering prayers for Shirley and her mother as they navigate grief after losing a father and husband, and then aunt and sister, and dealing with her mother's health issues. Offering prayers for myself as I navigate trauma, life under capitalism, patriarchal white supremacy, and the challenges of daily life, and learn to receive and live in joy. Offering prayers for Aisha's son as he navigates some challenges. Offering prayers for my friend, Emmett, who died today. May he be taken care of. May he have all those obstacles removed as he transitions into the body and spirit realm. Offering prayers for my friend S, who has cancer. May she recover. Offering prayers for Gail and Turner and Helen and all who became ancestors last month, and for all their loved ones. Prayers for Christina, diagnosed with cancer. Prayers for all those experiencing heavy hearts. May we all find up. May we all be liberated from the suffering. Praying also, offering prayers for my ability to go, my ability to let go of the past and prepare for a major move with ease. Offering prayers for my creative block to be lifted, and prayers for abundance. offering prayers for my ability to speak and act with integrity. We're offering prayers for the people in Iran. Offering prayers for Susan, who is facing complications from Operation December and may have to have another operation and face extended recovery. Offering prayers for Crown, who made her transition from Earth this week, and for her family. Offering prayers for Tanya and Tommy. May their IVF process go smoothly. May their baby be delivered to them as soon as possible. Offering prayers for the safety and well-being of everyone affected by the current flooding and the dangers and other dangerous conditions caused by severe storms in California. Offering prayers for myself as I move through this tunnel I am in, groping in the dark, that I emerge with a deeper trust in the divinity of phenomenal reality. We're offering prayers for my sisters as we have hard conversations with our aging mother, that we hold our boundaries with compassion. We're offering prayers for my mother, that she find internal, external resources to get her life in balance. Prayers of gratitude for the Crone Divas Circle of Care. Offering prayers of gratitude for Lama Rod and all those laboring to build support for abolition and liberation. Offering prayers of care and compassion for all those incarcerated. Offering prayers for all the children and young women who are held in invisible incarceration in their homes and are taught that it is love, that they make it through to freedom and have the community and support to grieve and heal. Offering prayers of thanksgiving for all of the Sangha's benefactors and guides, and for her deeper trust and peace and divinity. Offering prayers for Jay's family and beloveds. Offering prayers for all of our mothers. Offering prayers for Alexis Pauline Gomes. Offering prayers for Valentina and Veronica. Offering prayers for the ocean and all the marine mammals. Offering prayers for Essa's book, her book, and next steps in her career. Offering prayers for Elle, that she gets all the support and love she desires and needs. Offering prayers for Humboldt Neighborhood and Falcon Collective. Prayers for A as we move through couples counseling, that we grow a deep tenderness for each other without generational trauma blocking us. We're offering prayers for R, that A and I are able to find her the right coaching for her autism. Offering prayers for my maternal precarity. May I find housing opportunities to meet my needs. Offering prayers for Curry for her upcoming surgery. Offering prayers that my uncle gets what he needs to get over sepsis. Offering prayers that I develop skills to ask for what I need. Offering prayers that the nurses on strike and all nurses get the care that they need. Offering prayers with strength and patience to be the parent that my child needs. Prayers for teachers and service providers of kids with disabilities, that they will receive the resources and support they need to do their best work. Offering prayers for my partner and their healing from past trauma, that still resonates today. Offering prayers for Brazil, prayers for Rich, diagnosed with a brain tumor, prayers for all those experienced suffering at this time. Offering prayers for my aunt, whom I am coming to accept as dying and transitioning. For Ruben, who is recovering from the accident, for myself to slow down. Prayers for all beings to see clearly and break through the illusion. Prayers for myself to deepen my practice. Prayers for Alex, may he feel safe and grow into independence in his own way. Prayers for Bev. Prayers for Larry and Dave and Debbie. Prayers for Rita. Prayers for all refugees and those affected by war and oppression. Prayers for clarity of mind to overcome fear, writer's block, and procrastination on the journey to earn a PhD. And offering prayers for me that I retain my housing and make enough money to stay housed. I continue to offer prayers for Rose as she continues her transition as well. I offer prayers for Lama Justin as well for him and his family, for their deep well-being, happiness, and joy. I continue to offer prayers for my sister who is expecting her first child next month. And I offer all the unspoken prayers that remain unarticulated, but still remain very heavy in our hearts and bodies. Lift those prayers and offer those prayers to our sources of refuge, our homecomings. And that all beings may experience complete freedom, that all systems and institutions of violence be completely abolished. May we enter into the next world, the world of freedom and deep agency and kindness, and where our essential labor is loving. May we all get as free as quickly as possible. As we turn our practice back into the mantra, just continuing to absorb this energy from the space around us, allowing our benefactors, all those who have gathered, to actually work on our behalf to bring about the fruition of these prayers. And so we begin again in a moment. 오세야자 훔배근제 배근제 마배근제 라자수몽가테 소아 대야자 오배근제 배근제 마배근제 라자수몽가테 소아 대야자 오배근제 배근제 마배근제 라는 숨을 가진 소아 대하자 배근제 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 배근제 마배근제 라는 숨을 가진 소아 Deyada Om Beyenze Beyenze Ma Beyenze Razu Yarizua 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 Deyada Om Beyenze Beyenze Ma Beyenze Raza Sumo Gate Soa. So continuing just for another few moments, just continuing to absorb this energy in the space around you, experiencing this energy as being restorative and inspiring, dissolving some of the suffering maybe that we're hanging on to. We offer a final prayer here as well that all beings may experience this restoration, the same restoration that we're experiencing in this moment. May all beings have the energy they need to take care of those around them and to eventually get themselves and their communities free. When you're ready, shifting your attention back to the seat. Noticing the weight of your body making contact with the seat. This is beginning to reawaken the body if you want. Just moving through some simple, slow movements. Maybe moving through a few deep cleansing breaths by breathing into the nose and out of the mouth. And as we exhale, releasing all the stuff that we are always holding on to, just letting it go. So we're gonna turn our attention now to Shantideva's prayer, which you'll find in the chat box. And we'll recite this 3 times. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space, and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space, and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. All right, sweet, hooray. So questions, okay, so you can now, you can put questions in the chat, or you may raise your hand to offer questions as well. Teamwork, this is nothing but teamwork. And of course, Miss Mercury has been okay this session, so we don't know how long it's gonna last. We don't know. Oops. What am I doing? What am I doing? I need to stop touching things. Okay. Okay, is there a question?
I don't see any right now.
Oh, great. I mean, that's not great. Okay, there's a question. You know what? I was thinking that I needed to give another talk on this prayer. That's so interesting. Okay, so what does this line of Shantadeva's prayer mean? And until they pass away from pain, right? Until we transcend pain, right? To, pain and suffering are considered two different experiences. Pain is, pain is just happens, right? Pain is just going to happen. We're embodied, we're in the relative and in the carceral state. And pain is this sensation that's always going to be present for us, right? Suffering comes from the ways in which we push pain away. So suffering is the tension that we experience from trying to push pain away, and the energy that goes away, that goes into bypassing, pushing pain away, right? So this is when you read things like suffering is a choice, or suffering is this thing that we can, disrupt. And that's what they're really talking about in that, and those teachings, that once we start opening to the experience of pain, the experience of suffering actually begins to dissipate, right? And the experience of pain can begin to change, right? As well. So that's what it means. So until everyone passes away from pain, right? Until we transcend the conditions of believing that there is this self that can experience pain. We're trying to pass through that, and transcend that through, right, the development of clarity. It's not dying from pain, right? It's until beings, like in the great elements such as earth, may always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may also be the source of life, right? And that it can sound like dying, but dying isn't getting away from pain. unfortunately, like dying isn't transcending. The only thing dying is transcending is the material form, is the material world. Um, you're still in an experience of sensation and feeling, right? And that can be painful and full of suffering as well. Um, let's see. When we are the light and when we are the light and open, then we have more support from our benefactors. Yes, is that a question? When we are, did I read it wrong? When we are the light and open, then we have more support from our, yeah. So you do have more support from your benefactors because you're opening to that support. So when we close down and shut down and everything, like we're keeping a lot of energy from helping us, though we think that we're keeping energy from hurting us, right? It's two things are happening here, right? We're shutting down the energy we're actually, when we shut down, we're actually hurting ourselves, right? Because we're entering into a condition of permanence, or we think it's permanent. And that becomes trauma, right? That becomes a kind of, well, it becomes trauma when we try to shut down and we keep energy in place, and then that creates a deep woundedness that we can call trauma. When I'm opening, right, that's an invitation for my benefactors to come closer, to draw closer, right? So these practices are practices of vulnerability, of deep heart opening, right? And that's how we're going to get free, because you can't get free until you begin to expand, not close and shut down. We want to expand into space and expand away from this sense of self. Because right now we're contracting around this sense of self, and the sense of self is just a ball of like perceptions and thoughts and feelings that is so tight, it feels like it's congealed into this autonomous experience, and it's not. It feels autonomous because we're compacting this experience through intense fixation and contraction. Okay? And the more we expand, the more the truth of self begins to reveal itself, which is as an illusion. But always want to remind everyone that we're not trying to erase anything in practice. That's not what we're doing. We're not trying to clear anything. We're not trying to clear. This is not cleaning out a house. This is not tearing down a building, all these little metaphors. We're not doing anything. We're just allowing. Like that's the middle way of Buddhism, of Dharma. Is like we're just learning how to let things be, and then choosing how we want to be in relationship to those things. You can't have that agency of choice if you're habitually reacting all the time. Bacon's a Bacon's a well. It says there's no right pronunciation to any of this as well, by the way. So the mantras that we have, they're transliterations. So they're just the sounds, the syllables and the vowels that you get from the Tibetan. And everyone writes transliteration differently. And also people have different accents, and usually you traditionally pick up the accent of your teacher, but I also studied Tibetan in graduate school. So like I also have that pronunciation. So anyway, I tend to, in mantras, actually kind of favor my teacher's pronunciation. They're different in terms of Tibetan. There are different regions in Tibet with different pronunciations, like any country, right? And so often, if you're really deep in Tibetan practice, you learn the Tibetan of the region your root teacher is from. But yeah, so it's pronounced, so I pronounce it Be-Kinze. Be-Kinze. This is why we're going to do mantra initiation practice. Like you just want to internalize the mantra Be-Kinze. Be-Kinze, Maha Be-Kinze. Right. Okay. Our question is, if we have a hard time opening, are we less protected? No, you're not less protected, but you're gonna have a hard time feeling that protection, which may seem like you're not being protected. But the protection is still there. What we're trying to do is work collaboratively with our benefactors. So I want to meet my benefactors where they are. You know. So if I'm kind of shut down, of course, shutting down feels very natural because that's really our habitual response to anything, is to shut down, is to close down, right? And so what we're trying to initiate is an opening, which seems counterintuitive, given that we're always trying to protect ourselves. But this is the path of profound, deep vulnerability, and trusting that that vulnerability is actually going to be a source of protection for us. Right? It becomes a source of protection because that openness helps us to develop a clarity about the nature of things, right? And so I don't necessarily have to move through the world anymore believing that everything is trying to get me, right? That kind of paranoia, which comes from historical trauma, you know, a lot from, you know, for those of us who traditionally come out of marginalized, oppressed communities, that's part of historical, transhistorical trauma that says that, like, we have to protect ourselves, right? So opening seems counterintuitive to a lot of this, right? So that's one thing you kind of have to kind of work with, is that, like, the things that we're being told to do is going to sound really unnatural because we've been told to do the opposites, right? Because we have been conditioned to be relative beings, material beings, not immaterial beings or spiritual beings. Like, we're just conditioned to be in the world and survive the world. What we're doing now is connecting to our higher levels of consciousness, to our spiritual selves, our energy bodies. And those are experiences of expansion, openness, fluidity. So you're going to have to put that spiritual practice of fluidity into conversation with this relative practice of shutting down, right? And begin to, over time, connect to the profound power of vulnerability and the profound trust of all these beings around us who are protecting us, right? Now, this doesn't mean that you kind of walk through the world with no boundaries, because we all need boundaries. Boundaries are an expression of care for ourselves and for others, right? So it doesn't mean that, like, I just kind of sashay into all kinds of situations, you know, i.e., if you live in Georgia, like, I don't go to certain parts of North Georgia, if you get what I'm saying, if you get my gist there, right? You know, I don't go to places where films like Deliverance were filmed. You know, I just don't do that. That's called a boundary. Like, no matter how strong my protection is, I'm going to choose not to do that. You know, but if I'm just living my normal life, then there's a profound trust in the protection that I have, right? Not that I won't have the protection if I go to those places, but, you know, I'm not just going to go to those places just for the hell of it, just to see if I'm going to be protected, right? You know, don't do that. Let's see, I think that was the last question there. My question, okay, third question, a question if you have a hard time opening up. Sometimes it's hard to find. Sometimes it's hard and it frightens me that I'm closing out help as I struggle in darkness. Well, you know, this is a teaching around also trusting darkness as well. And this is a tantric theory, tantric principle as well. How do you begin to actually see the darkness as a benefactor as well? You know, because the darkness, what is the darkness really? Right. And this is why, you know, if you go to Lama Justin's protector practice retreat, like that's what tantric protectors are about. It's about embodying darkness and actually helping us to train in the wisdom of darkness. Okay, great. So thank you all so much. Hopefully, I hope to see you on Sunday for our inaugural our inaugural online Chinrezi practice. And I think that's all I have to share. So thank you so much, everyone. And I may see some of you in small groups as well later this month. Thank you all so much. And I'll see you in some form or fashion. Okay. All right. Thank you.